Welcome back to week 6 of Valencia Marathon training, and with just 4 weeks to go now, see how I get on this week in the build up to the Valencia Marathon.
And here we go at Coronation Park parkrun. We're off. This is my local parkrun. I was up a bit late this morning and it's only about 5 minutes from my house, so we've made a start a little bit further back, but I soon make my way up into the first group. Now, I did rather foolishly think at this point that the pace didn't seem too quick at the start, and I was keeping up with the top group, but we were running at low 6-minute miles, which, to be honest, feels like a comfortable pace when I'm feeling good, but this morning was not feeling great at all, to be honest, so I soon dropped back and went into a little bit more of a comfortable pace for me this morning. So this was pushed over 6:30 per mile, and my dreams of getting a sub 20 parkrun were soon dashed. At about this point, I reckon that I thought that it's going to be a struggle for me to get it under 20 minutes this morning. So after a bit of a dogleg section round that cone, we then head back to the end of the first lap. So just over a mile here into parkrun, seeing the volunteers there for the first time, and then we're on to more of the typical loop. At this point of the parkrun, I was very much running on my own, so there wasn't really anyone close to me behind, and there wasn't really anyone close to me in front, but I still had a way to go to catch up the group of 4 who were a little bit further in front of me. You'll then join me as I'm running into the finish straight here, so the camera angle does then go to a bit of more flat angle here, and just where the cones are to the left of there is where we finish, so well over 20 at this point. Let's see what the time's coming in on the clock.
Fantastic. Bye.
Thank you.
Zoom in on 5.
Cheers. So I'll talk you through a bit of my training this week, and on Monday went out for around 8.5 miles with Robbie on Monday night. So as I do, an easy run on Monday, felt okay on Monday, a little bit dark to run in, but got out there, got the miles done. So then going into Tuesday, I did a double day, so went out for a really short run in the morning, and typically it would plan to be my session day on Tuesday, so try and get that short interval kind of session in. So I wanted to do something like a 10 by 800 this week, so I thought going out in the morning, freshen up my legs, get ready for that good session in the evening. So I was playing paddle later on in the evening and thought, right, we'll get that session in before then, but as it turned out, I just was feeling a little bit run down, to be honest. I don't think I quite recovered from the session on Sunday, which was 20 miles with 14 miles of marathon pace effort within there. So I opted to do a shorter run Tuesday night before paddle, and not do the session, try and put that back to either Wednesday or Thursday this week. So that was the case. I went out on Tuesday, did about 4 miles, played paddle, and that was it for Tuesday. Wednesday, same again, thought I'll get out for a very short run, maybe 20 or 30 minutes earlier in the day, and then attempt to do that session in the evening. So got to Wednesday, went out for a very short run at lunchtime, but only got probably about within 30 seconds. The pain in my knee was just a little bit too sore, that I was just a bit worried about this close to the marathon. It was pain like just below my knee, so I've got a little bit of sort of a growth of the bone spur just below the knee there, which is similar to a bit of Osgood-Schlatter's disease that you get when you're younger. It could have been a bit of soreness, a bit of bursitis on the top of the fibia or tibia going into just below the patella. So I opted to turn back, didn't want to take any chances, and I was going for a massage physio the next day anyway, so opted to not do that session and do it on Zwift instead. So I set myself just over an hour of the equivalent kind of session to do on the bike, and thinking that I'm not going to get any impact on my knee really on the bike, although I will still get a good workout. aerobically and use some different muscles, I guess, use some similar muscles to run into. So give the quads a good workout on the bike, and it did still feel a little bit sore, so could have been that I've just got a bit of tightness in my quads which was pulling against it and just causing a bit of soreness on my knee there. So I think it was a good decision to rest up and just preserve that knee. Although I've dropped my mileage a little bit, it's impacted on my running week, but I just pushed on through it, and with tight quads, sore knee, could have then turned into something a little bit more severe and risked me getting to the start line at Valencia. So that was the case Wednesday night. Then went into Thursday, had my massage, did confirm that quads were a little bit tight, and that was probably the cause of what was causing this knee pain, and I opted to test it on the treadmill Thursday night. So typically I'd do on Thursday a progression on the treadmill, and I thought with having a little bit less impact on my knee on the treadmill belt, it would be better to do this. So I went for a short warm-up, it was about a mile warm-up, and then wanted to do 5k at a tempo pace. So did 5k at around about just under 4-minute kilometers. So it was tracking for, I think I went through 5k in about 1950 on the treadmill, which is obviously a little bit easier on the treadmill than outdoors. So that was pretty decent. On Thursday did about 5k tempo, had a bit of a rest on the treadmill, and then did another 1k tempo on there, which was slightly quicker than that, which was around sort of 3:45ish for that 1k. So going into coming out of Thursday feeling pretty good, but then Friday just felt a little bit run down, a little bit under the weather, and didn't end up getting out on Friday, just not feeling very well, and that's probably lingered into this morning a little bit and into parkrun. So went and did my local parkrun this morning at Coronation Park, not too much of a warm-up, and found it quite hard work, to be honest, to set off at a similar sort of pace to what I'd run on that treadmill that felt pretty comfortable, but I was soon by that first mile flagging a bit and struggling. So finished in probably around 20:40, I think, in the end. Just really slowed down there, and really it's deciding what to do tomorrow now. So what I'll do, I'm going to do a long run, but it's how long do I go on this long run with the complications I've had this week. I don't want to overdo it this week and then impact onto next week. So for the second Sunday in a row now, I'm back at Albert Village Lake and attempting to run a 20 miler again. So I'll be looking to get in excess of this distance, and today's session is a 10 by 1 mile at marathon pace. So really that marathon pace should feel quite comfortable, about 6:45 to 6:50, and I'm going to have a mile off in between each one. So to compare that to last week's session, I did a 4-mile block at marathon pace, 2 3-mile blocks and 2 2-mile blocks. So running well in excess of the 1 mile distance and at a similar pace. So I should be able to find this a little bit of an easier session today. So I'm after rep 2 now. I'm on my second recovery and been feeling pretty comfortable so far. So the reps have felt like I've been running within myself, which is good for running at marathon pace, and I've been 6:40 and 6:45. So as long as I can keep it somewhere in the 6:40 region, it'll be good work for my workout. So 8 to go, the efforts. Big old session today, and I'll probably take on my first gel and the next rep. I want to be practicing my reps whilst I'm running at marathon pace, not whilst I'm on the recoveries. So that's 4 reps done now. I'm on the recovery, ready to go on the 5th, so nearly halfway there in the session. Every rep has felt pretty good, around that mid 6:40s. So let's keep this going till the end. So I'm expecting, as of the same session last week, to drop off a little bit in the second half. So really going to just keep hammering that fuel in, keep it controlled and keep it strong to the end. That's 6 reps done now, so well over halfway into the session. I'm 12 and a half miles in and starting to feel a little bit more fatigued, but I really don't start to feel it too badly until after the half marathon point in my longer runs. So these next 2 or 3 will be the real test of whether I've got that endurance to kick on at marathon pace. In terms of fueling, I should be on point really with the fueling, but I've had 2 lots of the 40-gram OTE gels, which I'll probably take to Valencia with me within the first hour and a half of running. And I've also had a sip of my 90-gram pouch of Precision Fuel and Hydration. So I have the whole thing, it's 170 grams of carbs, which is plenty really for a 2 hour 20, 2.5 hour run I'm doing this morning. So that's rep number 8 done now, and really starting to feel it a little bit more, as I said I would. So I'm into my 17th mile of the run, and going into the last 10 miles of a marathon is usually any time at that point it's going to get tough. So by doing more of these in training, pushing further past the 20, 22 barrier mark, is going to make my body, my mind, my legs more used to doing this on the day of the marathon. So that wraps up the session. Did a 10 by 1 mile today, and pretty pleased with that because I did hit 10 miles of that at marathon pace. I was aiming anywhere between 640s and 650s, which works out at somewhere between a 2:55 and a 3 hour marathon, which is my goal going into Valencia. So doing 1 mile on and 1 mile off. I originally intended to go out with the intention of doing float recoveries. So these were doing a recovery where you're just taking your foot off the gas a little bit. So you're still working, but for me, for that kind of session, for example, I was doing 640 to 650 on my on reps. My float recoveries would be somewhere between 7:15s and 7:30s. So I'm still putting a little bit of effort in, but I'm still getting that recovery between the reps with having that 1 mile in between. But as the session went on, these float recoveries, although my reps were staying the same at 640s to 650s, these float recoveries were getting slower and slower and more into just a jog recovery by the end. They were hitting about 8-minute miles. So on some of these, I was taking a drink, so that was adding a little bit more to my recovery, that I was almost coming to a stop to take a sip of water, put it back and then go again. But that was far better than if I'd have just not stopped at all. I think I would have really struggled having no water on a session like that and then having no gels as well. So really good exercise there, managing to take on board 170 grams of carbs in total over 2.5 hours and a 21 mile run, which is my longest of the block so far. And to sum up that whole week, it was a little bit of a disrupted week, as we spoke about on Tuesday to Thursday, really, with niggle, the issue that I had with my knee. So started the week okay on the Monday, missed my session Tuesday, didn't end up doing that on either Tuesday or Wednesday. Then did a session later on in the week with that that tempo run on the treadmill on the Thursday evening, and then picked it up a little bit to still get that session in at the weekend, the one on Sunday. So to be honest, the main thing right now is that I am hitting the long runs and hitting the long run sessions. And if a session does have to go in my week, it's probably that shorter VO2 max kind of session that you're doing shorter intervals, anywhere between sort of 30 seconds to 3 minutes, that is still beneficial to my running, but it's not particularly specific to marathon training. So whilst I still want to do that, it wasn't a big issue really that I missed that on Tuesday. The bigger thing really was that knee niggle didn't turn into anything more serious. I didn't know what it was Tuesday or Wednesday, but was just a little bit of tightness in my quad, which I've got through 21 miles of running today, and I've just got the 3 weeks of training before I then go into the last week of taper before the Valencia Marathon, which is 4 weeks today. So overall, I'm feeling pretty good. That's my 4th 20 mile run now in this block. So I feel like I'm hitting some decent mileage weeks. I'm hitting some good sessions in there fairly consistently. And it's a good sign really with just 4 weeks to go now until the marathon. So stay tuned for next week, where I'll be hitting a typical training week, but I'll also be having Derby 10 miles on the Sunday. So it's a good chance to work at probably 10 miles at just in front of that marathon pace really. So it'll be a good session nonetheless. I'll try and get a little bit of mileage in around that too. So if you did like the video, hit that like and subscribe button and you'll be notified for next week's video when it drops. See you in the next one.